Welcome to Friday Friends, RI Elder Info's weekly look at the organizations and individuals providing resources for Rhode Island seniors, caregivers, and professionals.
Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday. It is 9 o'clock on Friday. We are going into the holiday week. Woohoo! And I am Deb Burton, the Executive Director of RI Elder Info. And this is Friday Friends, where every Friday I bring you a guest who has information or resources that you or someone you know needs to know about. So make sure you hit the like button, the share button, the bells, the whistles, all those social cues that say, hey, check this out. We have a guest today that is talking about a really important topic, particularly around this time of year. So you don't want to miss this before you start wrapping presents or writing out your end of year checks and donations. Make sure you hit share on this. So as you all know, we are a 501c3 nonprofit, and we could not do this work without the support of our sponsors. So a big thank you to Point 32 Health Foundation, United Healthcare, Oak Street Health, as well as 321 Media, and of course our Friday Friends sponsors, McCarthy Law. Here's a message from McCarthy Law.
Here at McCarthy Law, we practice in the areas of estate planning, long-term care planning, elder care law, and residential real estate. Our focus is really on providing peace of mind to our clients.
If you're interested in scheduling a consultation with our office, you can feel free to reach out to us at 401-541-5540. You can also reach out via website at www.mccarthylawri.com. You also should check out our social media, both on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn for some helpful tips and tricks.
Welcome, Daphne Hamilton. How are you?
Hello, I'm so good. How are you? Thank you for having me.
Yes, absolutely. We are like cruising right into this holiday season, and a lot of folks are like thinking of the last minute gifts. What do we do? It's also end of year. So I wanted to talk to you about how can gifts have positive, negative implications when it's, your estate planning, your Medicaid planning, all of those different pieces.
Definitely. So I'm in the same boat as far as thinking ahead for Christmas gifts and trying to get everything in order. So we have found that a lot of our clients recently have been having questions related to gifting tactics towards the ends of the year. So I wanted to first talk about the Medicaid eligibility piece. So I'm sure many of our listeners are aware of this 5-year look back period. This 5 years comes up a lot when we're thinking about nursing home planning, long-term care planning, and ultimately Medicaid eligibility. So if we're applying for Medicaid in the state of Rhode Island, meaning that someone is in a nursing home and they're needing the government to pay that cost of their care, they have to be financially eligible. And the way that they are able to prove that is they have to make sure that within the past 5 years, there are no blips on the chain of title and assets that come up. So the Department of Human Services really has a huge asset verification system where things aren't going missed. So a lot of our clients are saying, is there any way we can start pigeonholing some of these assets or gifting money away to try to get assets out of their name? The problem with that is that gifts are considered a penalty when it comes to Medicaid eligibility. So from that person's date of a Medicaid application, within the past 5 years, if they've gifted funds either to charity, to family members, to friends, that can pose an issue related to their Medicaid eligibility and potentially penalize them. So the way that we're advising clients, first of all, is making sure that if they are in a position where we're trying to achieve Medicaid eligibility, we're actually asking them, have they done any major gifting within the past 5 years? And a lot of people aren't coming to the surface with realizing that even larger Christmas gifts, if you're gifting cash or checks to your family members, wedding gifts is a huge one too. That tends to be a bigger spend when it comes to gifting to those family members that you care so much about. And even charitable gifting. While we all know that that's such a great part of being a human, is being able to give back and providing funds for these charities that are so close to our heart, the government at the same time is going to say, if you had those funds available to you, you
Yep.
should have used that towards your care. You shouldn't just be gifting everything away. Because thinking
Okay.
about it from their end, if you had it available, everybody would have been gifting their money away towards the end to try and get Medicaid eligibility in that situation. So, as we near the holidays, and if you're of an age or of a health that you think you are starting to become more concerned about potentially needing Medicaid or nursing home care, you should start to take a look at some of the gifting that you're doing. So, whether it's annual contributions to charities, family members, birthday gifts, Christmas gifts, holiday gifts, just to make sure that it's truly going to be aligned and that you're understanding the possible penalty on the back end.
And so a lot of times people ask, oh, I thought I could give X amount of dollars to the kids every year and that was going to be okay and there'd be, no bad consequences. Is
Yep.
that not the case as we get older or maybe have health concerns?
That's a great question. So when it comes to Medicaid concerns, it definitely is a concern and you're not able to take part in that gifting tactic. However, from a federal level, and really when it comes to your estate, so your net worth when you pass away, there is
Mhm.
that federal annual gift exclusion that you're able to do. So for right now, at least with these numbers, allowed to gift around $18,000 per year per person. So if I had two children, maybe
Mhm.
I'm going to gift them each $18,000 this year. And that means I don't have to file a gift tax return. So once I'm reaching above that threshold, that's when it's a trigger to the IRS that I need to file the tax return. Nothing is due for a gift tax right now, but it would be counted against me if I had a federally taxable estate on the back end. So it's definitely hard to see how they act together, that
Yeah.
it's great when it comes to tax planning and providing this next generation or friends and family with some generational wealth. On the Medicaid side, it does become a penalty. So the government recognizes it in one way, but not the other.
Wow. Okay. So the 18,000 by today's standards, and somebody could be watching this in the future. So we're in the end of 2024. It's
Mhm.
about 18,000, but that actually has to do with estate tax and the IRS, and not actually with applying for Medicaid or long-term services and supports.
Correct. So if someone realistically decided, well, I know I'm allowed to give $18,000 a year per person, if they did that a year before they're applying for Medicaid, that's now going to be a penalty. So in 2024's numbers, for every $10,190 that someone gifts away, they're penalized 1 month of private pay in the nursing home.
Oh,
So for
wow. Okay.
$18,000, if that's what you're gifting annually, you're going to be penalized 2 months before you're considered able to receive Medicaid benefits from there.
And what does that actually mean to be penalized? Does that mean Medicaid wouldn't cover like the first 2 months?
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
So you can still be applying within that month. So say if you had a 2 month penalty, which is what we would calculate, and we're applying for December of 2024, you still want that application to go in because we want the penalty period to start. But for January and for February, that means that you're going to owe the full private pay amount to the nursing home, which right now, as a lot of our listeners know, it's astronomical. It's around $13,000 to $15,000 per month. So you're being responsible for paying that for that 2 month period before you're considered ticking on Medicaid and now eligible to get those benefits.
I guess the good news is that if you did have something come up, I mean, we don't always know in 4.5 years, I don't maybe I have a stroke and I need to be in
Yep.
long-term care for the rest of my life. And that's
Yeah.
certainly not what I'm preparing for today. So,
Mhm.
if I am finding myself having given away money, at least it seems like Medicaid is not a flat no. It's
Correct.
okay, but you have to wait.
Mhm. Yep. And if that person that you've gifted to is willing to provide the gift back, so they're
Mhm.
reimbursing you, and you're considered whole, then it's not considered a penalty because now that money is available to pay for your cost of care. So, especially if it's a situation where you've gifted to a child or you've loaned money to a child, we always have that conversations with clients if they're larger gifts, if there's any possibility of the return of the gift. And
Got it.
we nobody has a crystal ball. I mean, it's easy for me to say, "Don't gift to anybody ever," like Scrooge, but at the same time, we're all human beings. We wanna be giving back. We wanna be caring for our friends and family that we love so much. But as you get older, and if you do have health concerns that we're thinking more so for Medicaid eligibility, you just wanna be aware of what you're doing annually.
Okay. And does that also apply if folks are donating to nonprofits, their end of year giving in that kind of way? Does it matter who you're writing the check to, I guess, is the question.
Yeah. So unfortunately, when it comes to Medicaid eligibility, that's also included. So even though it's great if we're gifting from a tax perspective and just out of the goodness of our hearts to be gifting to those charitable organizations, that would still be considered a penalty as well, too.
Okay. And a friend of mine has taken their high schooler out to see colleges over the winter break.
Mhm.
If that grandparent is writing a check for the kids' tuition, same thing applies, right?
Same thing applies. So whenever you're
Okay.
spending money on things that are not for your benefit, so for someone else's benefit, especially things like education for a minor child or grandchild, that can still be considered a penalty too, because it should have been used ideally for your cost of care.
Okay. Are there things that are allowed that you're allowed to spend your money on and still be eligible for Medicaid?
Yep. So a lot of people think that once you're getting in that Medicaid eligible level, you can't spend money on anything. That's not the case. So, especially when we're trying to spend down assets to get you eligible, as long as these purchases and expenses are for that applicant's benefit, you can realistically be spending money on anything that you're doing on a day to day basis. Especially funeral planning. So, we want to make sure that those are considered purchased expenses and considered a valid spend down. Things like food, rent, expenses of the home, clothing, furniture, electronics, even to still consider yourself going on vacation. So it's not as if you have to stop
Mm.
this, luxurious living or your daily living and what you're used to. It's more so the concern of when you're doing that for someone else's benefit.
Ah, so you could still go on vacation. You just can't pay to take the grandkids to go see the mouse.
Correct. Exactly. And that's where
Got it.
receipts really becomes really important too. So I know we're trying really hard not to have paper receipts of everything and keeping everything digital. But at the same time, where our clients are running into issues when they're actually filing these applications is trying to look in the past 5 years from the date of application, who still keeps any of those receipts? So even if you think that you're spending bigger purchases or if you have like a larger Amazon account, try to just maybe start having a folder on your desktop or even a folder that's a physical piece of copy of larger expenses so that you have that receipt available to show for proof that it was for your benefit.
And if you needed like a ramp put in or grab bars or to get that bathroom renovated so you can get in with a wheelchair, are those kinds of things okay?
Yep, that's definitely okay as well too. So renovations, when it comes to the home, as long as it's for the benefit and for the safety of the person needing the care. So that's where we're seeing a lot of bathroom renovations. So adding in, more so a step-in shower in that situation, or a lift if there's a stair services. So that's where you can really work closely with the mobility company to make sure that it's truly safe for that person to reside there. And that definitely is money that can and should be used for that applicant to make sure that they're able to live safely there.
Wow. And so it kind of feels like there's a lot of if this, then that, but not this, but maybe that.
Yeah,
Are these the things that you can help people like kind of delineate and sort through?
definitely. So
Will you
when
keep
it
the
comes
receipt?
to, I don't know if I can have like 20,000 folders on my desktop just with clients' receipts, although I'd love to if anybody needed that assistance. Um, Medicaid planning is not black and white. It's very gray when it comes to what would be approved versus disproved. And it's all about working together to see where any corrections need to happen or to see where there's any gray areas. Because at the end of the day, the individuals that are processing these applications, they're not involved in your everyday life. They don't know what cost of living is like or if it's truly meant for someone's benefit. So it's on you to prove to them that it was a valid expense. And that's part of where our advice and counsel comes in as your attorneys to say, I really think that this is a red flag. We need to come up with some sort of plan and a set of reimbursement to make sure that this application can go through the approval process.
And so if you're an individual or your loved one maybe just got a diagnosis, say today, that there is a likelihood that the illness is going to progress. Say, for example, dementia or Parkinson's, these things aren't going to get better. They're going to progress, unfortunately. Are there steps that people can do so that if they did want to, say, protect their assets or pass something down to the future generations, are there ways to do that?
Definitely. So I think that it's a good reminder, especially as we're in the holiday season, we're going to start to be seeing a lot of family members that you don't see often. So this is a good opportunity to do a temperature check to see how individuals are doing, whether it was a little bit difficult for them to come to the home, how they're doing with socializing, mobility wise around the home and the gatherings, for you to be proactive. Being proactive is huge in our practice because if we have a great 5-year period and we think that we're going to need nursing home care well beyond the next 5 years, so we've surpassed the 5-year look back period, there's a lot of planning that you can do. So that's where irrevocable trust comes into play, also called a Medicaid Asset Protection Trust. That if you're wanting to gift to children and say you're doing larger gifts around the holidays or for weddings or birthdays, maybe let's structure that in a trust so that we're able to start that 5-year clock to try and build equity. Because if we've transferred assets correctly into an irrevocable trust, as long as we've surpassed the 5-year period, that asset and whatever is in the trust is considered not available to the applicant. So it's what we're saving from the nursing home. That's very common when it comes to real estate transfers as well for protecting equity in a home. But if we don't think that the next 5 years is attainable, or if there's an emergency situation, we can help that as well too. So we deal with emergencies all of the time, especially under the fact that nobody knows what's going to be happening in the future. We don't have that crystal ball. You can still do certain gifting tactics, working alongside an elder law attorney to still maintain Medicaid eligibility, but still preserving assets on the back end.
That it just sounds like there's a lot of details. And so if people wanted to reach out to you, is that the 407-5975? Is that the best number to reach you?
Yes.
Can they ask for you?
Yep. They can ask for our office. So we have 3 attorneys currently, and we're all available to answer any questions people have related to Medicaid eligibility, estate planning needs. Even if you think that you're not at the point of needing to talk to an attorney about eligibility, the fact that you even have it in your mind and you just have questions, it's worth having a consultation. Because at the end of the day, you're still going to be receiving an hour of legal advice to try to be proactive, to give you a set of tasks to do on the back end, so that if an emergency does arise, you already know the steps to take.
Planning is always so important, as far ahead as you can, so that in that crisis, it's not like, what do I do now? At least you have like that plan of what to do. So that is awesome. I've taken much more of your time than I expected to, but this has been a great conversation because there's so many different nuances. And at this time of year, I feel like it could be really easy to misstep.
Exactly. We're always here to help with any questions anyone has as well too.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And I hope you have a wonderful holiday.
Thank you. You too.
Everybody, there are so many different nuances when it comes to giving and to protect assets, to make sure that if you do need long-term care, because you've watched me before, you know Medicare does not cover long-term care. And so if you're really looking at how do I cover those costs, Medicaid may be an option. But like Daphne was saying, there's a lot of if this, then that. So you want to make sure that you get the right information that is appropriate for you. And the advice that your friends give might work for them, but it might not actually apply to you. So make sure that you reach out to an expert and get the information that is most important for you and your loved ones to make sure everything goes exactly how you want it to. So I am glad that you have all joined me here today. I hope that this is very helpful to you. Remember, when it comes to end of year giving, RI Elder Info is a 501c3 nonprofit, and we couldn't bring these shows to you without the support of our viewers and as well as our sponsors. So a big thank you and happy holidays to everyone. I look forward to seeing you all again next week. I'll be talking about the successes of RI Elder Info in 2024. In the meantime, be well and be kind.
If you liked this video, please follow us on social media and subscribe on YouTube. For more information, visit rielderinfo.com or call 401-585-0509. If you have any questions, email deb@rielderinfo.com.